do life your own way. You know, like express yourself in every way, on your own terms, in your own way.
I don't need to check off society's boxes the way everyone else might be. I can just live my own path, live my own way, and that is just as okay. Risk Forward is an imaginative and creative instruction manual that you didn't even know you could have for your life.
When we embrace the unknown, when we kind of take our time to look around and see what comes from within, that's when we come up with something different. Otherwise, we're just grabbing what everyone else has done. And so this book is about having the courage to kind of be okay with that.
And I just feel like every high school or college grad, this should be the first book that they read. Hey everyone, it's Shane Feldman. I'm so excited to be joined today by my dear friend, Victoria Labalme. Victoria and I actually met at a mutual friend's wedding a few years back and have been kind of fast good friends since. But in addition to being an incredible wedding table mate, Victoria Labalme helps people unlock their hidden genius and perform at their highest levels. That means in work, on stage, on camera, and really in life in general. Her films and performances and theater projects have received critical acclaim from The Hollywood Reporter, The New York Times, Variety, BBC, Good Morning America, and I know that her new book, Risk Forward, will reach that same level of accolade. It's rare, you know, I just got the book last night, and it's rare that a book comes along, for me at least, that is not only filled with fresh insights, but also captures your attention and lifts your spirit with every page turn. And Risk Forward was totally that book for me. It is as fun to read as it is rewarding to read. The illustrations are imaginative. The stories are not just remarkable, but really relatable. And every page really is an experience. I don't know how else to describe it. It's equal parts inspiring and instructive, and you really do have to read it to get what I mean, and I sincerely hope you do. And reading this, I kind of had some moments where I was like, it's like a children's book for adults.
Oh my God.
It happens to a part of your soul the way that kids' books do. And it's not the way that it reads, it's like I was 6 again, but it was giving me adult level insights. It was just, I don't know if you've heard that or if you ever thought about it that way, but that was a moment that I had last night.
Okay, so this will blow your mind. There's a book that I grew up reading and loving with my sister called Arm in Arm. And it was written by a guy named Remy Charlip, who's the same guy I talk about in the chapter called What Interests You Now. He's the one who had us say what interests us now. Remy's book, Arm in Arm, was the inspiration for Risk Forward. So my book was based on his specifically, because every page is different. Some are full text, some are just a picture with a few words. Some of the words go in different circles. So I sent that I used to go around to publishing houses and editors or agents. I'd be like, I want to write the adult business version of this book. And they'd be like, what are you smoking? We don't get what you're talking about. And then Hay House came and they said, whatever you want to do, we'll publish it. And about 2 months into the process with my editor, I FedExed her that book. And I said, this is the basis for Risk Forward. And just so you know, so we kept through the editing process. I was like, we want to make it more Remy here. This is more Remy being the author. And you picked it up.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That totally makes sense to me.
Right. But one of the things that people are saying again and again is they say it's so accessible, but it's profound. And that's the children's part with the little characters and the illustrations, but with the adult level, as you said, insights.
But I get how it can be, that night table book, because it doesn't, some personal development books are a lot. It's like, oh God, I read it and I'm like, I have so much homework to do.
Right.
Which is great. But this is more like, oh, I'm okay. I'm okay. Like, I know there's some things I need to do next to like risk forward more, but like, I'm good. That's kind of like the underlying message, which I think has that same, putting kids at ease with children's books. I really love it, Victoria.
I'm so glad.
I'm so excited for you. It really is an experience to read. I want to hear from you. Why was that so important to you to create? Why did you want to not just write another book on the shelf, but really make this an interactive experience to dive into?
I love that question. Well, so many reasons. One is my background as an artist, both as a visual artist, but also as a speaker and a performer and a filmmaker. And my whole world is about taking the audience, in this case, the reader, on a journey. So that's part of it. And I actually built the book in a slide format so that I could move the parts around and think of it filmically. So what's that journey that I take the audience on? Secondarily, I know for myself, I'm overwhelmed these days with information, like so many people. And I thought, how can I create a book that's super accessible, short, easy to read? You can read it in any order. You can dive in, dive out. You can just pick a chapter. The chapters are a half page to 2 pages long. So I wanted it to be visual, experiential, short, and not overwhelming. Like the last thing we need is to be more overwhelmed. So this is fun and accessible and visually stimulating.
That's one of the reasons that when I was reading this, I thought I really need to get into the hands of my sister, Jordan. She's 18 years old, recent high school grad, getting ready to start a university as a poli-sci major. And I'd just be like, every high school or college grad, this should be the first book that they read, because it's not only going to help set them up for success in whatever the future has in store for them, but really it's going to set them at ease. And I think that's what we all need, not just recent grads, but if you're 30, 40, 50 years old in a professional career. I think we all need that important reminder and some real tactics of how to live with a little more ease, but still reach a level of high performance. Why do you think that this book is more important now than ever?
Well, so many reasons, but specifically, we are in a culture, pandemic aside, where there is so much pressure to achieve and go for your goals and have a plan, and we feel bereft and less than if we're not clear, or if we're not gunning for it, or if we're not reaching our potential, and it's just overwhelming. And in my opinion, a lot of what's intended to help people, that kind of promotional go for it, actually hurts people's souls. And I wanted to create a book that did the opposite, that as you said, put people at ease, that encouraged them forward in a way that let them express who they really are. So part of it's that. Part of it's also the pandemic right now. I mean, I had already put this book in motion long before the pandemic hit. The contract I signed was a year and a half ago. I've been talking about this theme for many years. But who would have thought that this would all happen? And we are in a time of uncertainty. The subtitle of the book is Embrace the Unknown and Unlock Your Hidden Genius. So who would have known that we'd be in the unknown right now? And it's perfect for all of us who are reevaluating our lives, whether you're in between a career, in between coming out of college or high school, in between on a creative project. This book is about those windows of uncertainty, those windows of not knowing when you're between pieces of clarity. You've got clarity here, and you're thinking, how do I go forward? Whether it's for minutes or for months. It could be a project that you're facing a blank page, or it could be a blank few months. And this book helps.
I love what you're just saying about decisiveness and clarity. It reminds me, one of my favorite couple lines in the book. Actually, I'd love to read. I'll just read the 2 lines, and then I want to dive a little deeper into what you meant by this. It's early on in the book, and this is the section. I'm just pulling out my PDF copy. People so often spoke about the importance of clarity, goals, and decisiveness, but in the hallways or over lunch, many would lean in and whisper to me that they were unsure of their directions or next steps. They felt wrong for not knowing, as if it was something to hide. And yet, I had discovered through my years in the arts that it is in this very gap between what is and what could be that we find our way. It is here that some of our best ideas are born. So I want to dive a little deeper into that concept, some of those hallway kind of back alley conversations you had, and some of the experience maybe you had in finding your greatest ideas in those gaps in between.
Sure, yeah. Well, a little bit of background on me. I grew up primarily as an artist. I was a writer, performer. I was drawing images. I was doing comedy, stand-up comedy. I was doing acting, filmmaking. I was doing all the different types of arts. And as I went on in my career, that led to one thing and the next. And a lot of people around me had clear plans. They were doing theater. They were doing academia or medicine or law or business, and I was exploring my different interests. And one thing interesting led to the next. And I didn't always have a plan. And after doing a lot of performing work, I got asked to help speakers with their storytelling, their expression on stage, on camera, being more engaging. That led to working with executives, working with CEOs on their expression, communication, and their strategies. That led to doing workshops for companies. Who would have thought that all these things would unfold? And yet, as I went around the world teaching these workshops and being on stage as a keynote artist, I would hear these people talk about goals and clarity, like I say in the introduction. And then some of them would like literally, they'd whisper, like, yeah, I'm not sure. And I thought, why are they whispering? Why is this something that's considered shameful? And for my own part, even as much success as I was having, and I was having a lot of success, there were certainly times, and there still are, where I was in a place of indecision. And if I ever found myself expressing that in a public way, I would see people kind of look at me like, oh yeah, you got to figure that out. Oh yeah. And they would almost look at me like I had leprosy, like, oh, she's indecisive. Oh, she's unclear. And I thought, what is the beef with not knowing? Like, where did we get that that's wrong? And everything I know, like I say, from the arts is that when we embrace the unknown, when we kind of take our time to look around and see what comes from within, that's when we come up with something different. Otherwise, we're just grabbing what everyone else has done. And so this book is about having the courage to kind of be okay with that and find your way forward. So it just felt so important to call out and to put everyone at ease that feels like, oh gosh, I don't know.
I feel like so many of us just get caught in that trap of feeling like we need to be a certain thing, especially in the social media culture today of seeing everyone's highlight reels. You feel like you have to show up with the perfect, framed goals,
Right.
on that 5-year track towards the promotion or the new job or the new company you want to start and build. And it's like you feel like you need to be born with all the answers today because of all those highlight reels we're surrounded by. I feel like this book in many ways is a really gentle wake-up call that it's okay if you don't have all the answers right away. Again, whether you're that 18-year-old recent grad or a 40-year-old CEO, it really doesn't matter. No one is expecting anyone to really have all the answers.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting. One of the things that has been extraordinary with the book is some of the most successful business people I know, heads of universities, CEOs of name brand companies that we all know, have read an early copy and said, Victoria, this is my life. This is how I got where I am. My life is a risk forward, the title of the book. And so that's the secret that I reveal in the book, that some of the most celebrated companies and creative endeavors didn't start with clarity and a plan. These people were figuring out as they went. And confidentially, they've said to me, Victoria, there's this XYZ that I'm working on, and I have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just figuring it out. And that's the key, is like, sometimes we have clarity. Sometimes a goal pops into our head, and I'm all for goals. I think they're valuable. I'm all for clarity. I'm all for decisiveness until it's outside in, until it's because, oh, everyone else has it and I have to force it and pretend and feign it all. And that's where the issue happens.
Yeah, it's clarity or goals with purpose, right? It's
Exactly.
about living, going downstream, aligned with your purpose and your plan and feeling attached to something greater than you are. And I don't just mean that in, an airy-fairy spiritual way. I mean, we all have deeper desires. We all have a greater sense of purpose. And so many of us, I think, can get caught up in that rat race and
Yeah.
no longer be attached to that deeper meaning within us that gives us the joy and the fulfillment at work and at home.
Exactly.
I think this book is kind of a really important reminder of that. And you really bring that to light in the deserted island.
Yeah. So that's
an example, which I love, where you kind of talk about what would be your greatest piece of advice to someone, or kind of like your last dying wish for someone else. I want to hear what yours is.
Oh, okay. Well, we won't reveal the full question in the book because it's an experience. It's like going through the book is like going through a movie. So I've been keeping really a lot of it secret only because I want everyone to have that experience for the first time.
I won't share the story. I won't say anything more, but I do want to hear if you could give one piece of advice to someone on your deathbed.
Yeah.
What would your piece of advice be?
Do life your own way. Like express yourself in every way on your own terms in your own way, because whether that's the pressure to get married or not. I mean, I didn't get married till I was in my 40s, and it was so hard in my 20s and 30s. People were like, oh, when are you going to get married? Are you going to have kids? And so whether it's your personal life and how you approach your romantic relationships, or whether it's how you go about your career, or whether how you express yourself. There's a whole piece of the book about how you express yourself creatively in your work. And whatever that is, I think that's our greatest sense of fulfillment in life, is when we've lived in our own way. And they say the biggest regret of the dying, the number one regret of the dying, is that they didn't take more risks. They didn't do things in their own way, that they sort of lived by other people's rules. And this book is about honoring who you are and expressing yourself the way only you can.
Was this always easy for you? Was it always easy for you to live your life risking forward in this sort of way?
Well, no, not always. And a lot of the pain that I suffered is what I want to spare people from. I sort of said that piece about marriage jokingly, but when I was in my 20s and 30s, it was really painful. I mean, I would show up at holidays and at parties, and the judgment that people had because I was still single or that I was a woman not having my own children and giving birth to my own children, it's extraordinary, the bias in our society.
Mhm.
And the book is not so much about that as much about sort of who we are in general. But I found, it was hard for me when all my friends had super clear career paths. It was hard for me when I moved into the business market, but I was an artist and I was trying to pretend I was something other until I realized, oh, no, no. And this is in the book, there's a way forward for me that's different from everyone else.
Mhm.
And so, even writing this book was itself a risk forward because a lot of people questioned me. And Shane, you and I had a lunch in New York City about 2 years ago as I was debating which book to write. Do you remember this conversation?
Of course I do.
And we were sitting in the West Village in Manhattan. And I said, I've got a few books I'm working on. And there's one that I'm going to do with this publisher. But, and I asked you, I sort of pitched it to you. I was like, okay, I could write this book. And I won't say what the other one was, but it was this book that's sort of going to be very helpful to my business. And then I have this other book called Risk Forward that I'm really excited about. And you go, well, I think I get it, for your business
Mhm.
from the outside in. Yeah, of course you would write that other book. And then you said, but the book I'd want to read is Risk Forward.
Yeah,
And
part of that not only is because it resonated deeper, but you have to understand, and I don't know if you remember this, but I can still see in that cute little corner booth in that restaurant that we were eating, and you lit up. It was like you were glowing when you were talking about this book, and you could tell that it was coming from such a deep place within you. You were already so connected
yeah,
to this book you hadn't even written yet. And I was
right.
like, I want to read that, not only because it seems aligned with me, but because it's going to be a more powerful book if it's coming from this sense of wonder within you, right? There's just that deeper sense of attachment.
That's exactly right. And it's exactly the whole purpose of the book. Is like sometimes we don't know where it's going to take us. We don't have some quote back end reverse engineered whole business plan. We're just doing it because we think it's the right thing to do. It feels like the right thing to do. And that's this book. This book is itself the message of the book.
It really is. It's like the metaphor all
It is.
encapsulated in. And it's a nice reminder that it's okay if you don't have it all figured out. And if you're on your own timeline, your own path, that, the being single and not being married as others around you're getting married resonates deeply with me.
Yeah.
I'm not quite yet 30, but I know especially being gay, everything is kind of pushed a little later in life when you come out later, because you kind of almost go through puberty in your early 20s.
Right.
When you're gay, because you got to kind of figure things out in a different way than, the heteronormative world.
Right.
And so nearing 30, being surrounded by friends who are getting married, getting pregnant, I'm like, I know that I am light years away from that chapter of my life. And I've had to teach myself that that's okay. And
Yeah.
I've had to come to terms with that and just realize that I don't need to check off society's boxes the way everyone else might be. I can just live my own path, live my own way. And that is just as okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. And the other piece is, if we apply the same conversation to the entrepreneurial world, which you and I are both in, and the speaker world, which we're both in, there's so much pressure. I see this around me, and everyone starts to adopt each other's goals. I want to impact 10 million lives, and I want to impact 100 million lives, and all these kind of similar goals that people have, and the pressure to make as much money or launch the same type of product or do the same kind of business model of each other. And I see this a lot with some of my peers. Is there's a lot of pressure and angst, and the kind of myth of the entrepreneurial world is that you're free. Entrepreneurship's about freedom, but what I'm seeing is a lot of people that are trapped in like that kind of mindset. And so this book is meant for the entrepreneur, because I've had many people come to me whose names I won't mention say, Victoria, I'm just so tired. I'm just so tired. I just need a break. Or one woman came to me and she said, I just need help to risk forward. She was making a lot of money. She was launching, doing all these events and speaking. And she just said, my risk forward, Victoria, is just to stop for a moment. I need your help. And so I did a private session with her, and she ended up taking a break from this machine. And what came out of that was extraordinary. Or we have a mutual friend, for example, Blake Fly, whose wedding it was at which we met, who he had come to a risk forward special group I was hosting. And he came up to me on one of the breaks and he was thinking about presenting this idea to the group. He said, well, it's not really baked yet, but it's this thing that I have. It's this idea of a co-working community. You think should I pitch it? And I was like, absolutely, because he was excited and curious. And he, in front of a room of 12 top entrepreneurs, pitched this idea called Project Finished. We all lit up. It was just beginning. It was a risk forward for him to pitch it, but it turned into a very successful tens of thousands of dollars business model for him from that risk forward, even though it was a departure from what he'd done before. And that's part of risking forward, is being able to do something different, whether you're the woman who's been making a lot of money and wants to get off that machine and try something different, or whether you're Blake, who's been doing kind of keynote speaking with his guitar, and he's going to try this new idea of co-working online. And that is it, the courage to try something new because it's pulling you forward.
Mm-hmm. And the only thing more powerful than getting pulled forward and diving into all of the golden nuggets in this book, to me, would be doing it with others. I'm a community person. I'm a community builder. Like Blake, like yourself, I'm all about doing things with others. So I know you're doing something really special, creating a book circle, a risk forward book circle. I'd love for you to explain what that is, especially for those out there that maybe want to get a few copies for their friends, or maybe some startups that want to empower all their employees with this book, or even schools. This should be in school libraries. So you want to talk a little bit about that package you have?
Yeah, sure. So what we're finding with early readers is that they want to buy a bunch of copies. They're saying, I need to give this to my community, my
I'm
team.
one of those people.
Exactly. I love that. Blake is one. So they're saying, I want to create some kind of a group around this. And so what we're doing, if people are doing that, I want to respect and honor that impulse. So we created something called the Book Circle. You can get it at riskforward.com/circle. So riskforward.com/circle. And anyone buying 10 copies, you get all these amazing resources back that basically make your book purchase free. So I teach a risk forward on camera workshop. I have a risk forward course coming up, and you get a coupon, a big discount to that. You get a special Q&A. So you get all these extra things that help you take the experience forward, so you can share it with your community. And then we have a larger risk forward community that you automatically become a part of. And we have a risk forward course, as I said, coming up that you'll be in. So it's just an extraordinary movement. I think of the risk forward experience as a movement. It's a whole mindset shift in how we go about our lives and our work. And we're taking people along for the ride, and people are so excited. Oh my gosh.
Yes, like I said, I'm one of those people. I am so excited. My problem right now is that there aren't enough people out there that have read it that I can talk to about it. So I'm just so excited for this book to be out there in the world, so I can just find all the other risk forward movers and shakers who
Yes.
connect and chat more.
Yeah.
Please pick up the book. This book is really incredible. Riskforward.com. There it is. I can't wait to have my hard copy.
I'm going to send you a hard copy, and I'm just going to show what it looks like inside for the viewer, because
Yeah.
this is a full spectrum experience.
What a tease. What a tease. I love it. It's colorful, it's different, but it's also truly one of the most, like I said before, equally parts inspiring and instructive books that I've had. That really, it resonates deep with me. I know it will with you too. Riskforward.com/circle if you want more information on those exciting packages. Risk Forward is the book. Pick it up wherever you get your books. And please message me, DM me. I want to hear your thoughts on this new incredible book. We can chat about it and maybe create our own little circle so that we can chat more about Risk Forward. Victoria, thank you so much for joining me, for answering my questions, and for sharing your incredible book with our community.
Thank you so much for having me.